Hello again, everyone. I thought it would be kind of interesting to go back and take a quick look at launch of the test launch of North Korea's Hwasong-14. And I took a look at the video that was released by KCNA and pulled a few screenshots off of it that kind of caught my eye. And what's interesting is that this TEL, the big the 8-axle launcher, that transporter erector launcher, big huge truck thing, that was in a parade. You see here, in a parade a few months ago. It's got that big mucking canister on it, and even though the cab configuration on the tail is different, still had a big canister. And a lot of so-called experts say, well, there's nothing in the canister. It's just a dummy canister for propaganda purposes. Well, obviously that's not the case, but I just thought that was interesting. But here we go with, I've just got a few slides that I'm going to put up here. Here is the beast, what I call the beast, traveling down the road. And it's kind of an interesting shot. They had cameras all over the place on this thing. They had camera teams up in the hills taking shots of it. What's interesting is the clouds of dust that are being kicked up by the wheels. There's a drought going on in North Korea right now, so you see the dust being kicked up by the wheels. Here's a picture of the front of the tail. You can see it coming towards you. And if I'm not mistaken, the front four, there's, like I say, 8 axles, and the front 4 axles, they have steerable wheels. So looks like the crew cab, it's a different configuration. Looks like it holds about 8, 4 abreast, I would guess. And then here, let's see, you can see the launcher, the turntable, the launcher. That's kind of interesting. And the hydraulic legs, the 4 legs that level it and suspend it. That's kind of the, a rear shot of the vehicle. I believe that whole launch frame thing is, like I say, expendable. I think it burns up. I'm not quite sure. Here we go, an interesting shot. There's where they're preparing to erect it. They're swarming all over it, unfastening everything. And Kim Jong Un is standing there with his hands behind his back. And to me, this is fascinating. And I'll have more to say about it as we go along. But I've been watching Kim Jong Un very carefully ever since he took over from his father. And an interesting fellow. And here he is right here at the launch site. Okay, they call it supervising it, and in a way he may well be, but all these guys, of course, they know what they're doing. But he's standing there watching everything. And I kind of think that's interesting because, I mean, he could have stayed in his office or wherever, but no, he's right there on the spot, standing in the dirt and the gravel, and watching what's going on very intently. That fascinates the heck out of me. And next slide here, we can see how the erector is tilting upwards, and again, Kim Jong Un is standing there watching it. And then the tilt continues. And this gives us a really good look at the table, how it's coming up at the cradle, I should say, how it comes up, and. Again, Kim Jong Un is standing there watching everything going on. And now we have, here's a slide where we have it fully erected, and the cradle is dropped back down onto the transporter, And now Kim Jong Un has moved towards the rear of the vehicle, and he's watching it pretty carefully. And this slide gives you a really good look at the back part, that that pad, or where that framework with the turntable where that they mount the missile on. That comes as one piece, so when they tilt it up, it just sets down. And Kim Jong Un has moved up, and he's watching what they're doing, getting everything. They're detaching it from they're detaching the missile, the turntable, from the transporter. And now we can see here where an interesting shot where the transporter is moving away from the missile as it's standing on that pad. And notice, if you will, the concrete. They poured a concrete apron out there for the launcher, for the transporter to back up on. And then there's a step, kind of. It looks to be like 18 inches or a couple feet, and that sets just down on that step. That's where the frame sets to hold the missile. I don't know if they're going to have to do this every time, to pour a piece of concrete and level it, to make sure it's perfectly level, or whether they need to. I mean, whether they have to have that for the flame, coming out from each side, or I don't know. It's kind of interesting because this doesn't launch from a canister, like I believe it's this Hwasong-14 launched from a canister. This launches from right there. So not sure whether they're going to pour a concrete pad every time. I mean, it really doesn't matter. They can do that easily enough, or even take out a prefabricated, pre-stressed concrete slab if they need to. I don't know. But I counted in this one, I counted at least 24 crew members around, plus Kim Jong Un is down there. And then here's where we're ready to launch. And everyone has cleared the area. The missile's standing there by itself. And again, it gives you a kind of a look at what's going on. And then the moment of launch, it goes up. And that red-orange cloud is from the fuel and the oxidizer. They use a nitrogen tetroxide and hydrazine to fuel it. I believe that's what they use. And the engine is what's called a hypergolic engine. And maybe some people pronounce it hypergolic, but hyperbolic, or however you say it, I don't know. Anyway, what happens is when the fuel and the oxidizer come together, it lights automatically. Just once in contact, boom, you got thrust. And then in this next one, you can see up it goes. There's a good shot. They showed some others that I'm not showing here, but they showed some really close-up of the back of the missile as it's going up, and it's got just the one motor in the center and 4 veneer motors. And these little separate motors steer the rocket. A lot of rockets will have the motor on a gimbal, but this doesn't use a gimbal, apparently. It has the 4 rockets on one on each corner, and that steers it as it goes up. So I thought what was interesting to me about all these pictures is how detailed North Korea was. Usually they're fairly, they hold their cards fairly close to the vest. You don't see a lot of this stuff. But here, these pictures are right out there, the video. And I mean, they're showing you pretty much everything. Analysts, CIA analysts, I'm sure they can look at these pictures and just tell a lot of what's going on. So, of course, the North Korean tails are going to be derivatives of Russian tails and Chinese tails. I'm not sure if it was this transporter erector launcher or another one, But they bought a bunch of them from the Chinese to use to transport lumber. There was just a frame and the motor, and they said they were going to transport lumber with them, use them for lumber trucks, bringing wood out of the hills. And instead, they used them for tails, which I'm sure the Chinese probably thought they were going to do it, but they just sold them to them in lumber trucks, and you know, kind of a fig leaf. I'm not sure if that's what happened, but it could have happened. What's interesting here also is going back to this slide here, you can see on the left and on the right, especially on the right, you can see where the little trees have been planted. Looks like a Christmas tree plantation. That's actually for the last, I don't know how many years, a very long time, 20, 30 years. North Korea has had a really intense reforestation going on, because during the war, the place looked like the craters of the moon, totally devastated with all the bombing and the incendiaries and the napalm that the U.S. dropped on the country. And it caused a lot of forest fires. So they reforested everything, and here you can see the reforestation on the right, the little trees, probably 2 or 3 years old, and on the left, the larger trees, which may look to be maybe 6 or 8 years old. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see the reforestation. But yeah, getting back to what's interesting about these pictures is not only are they showing you pretty much everything, but Kim Jong Un getting out of the office and getting right on the site and looking at what's going on. And that's what he does. I mean, ever since almost on the first day, he's out and about, shaking hands, you know, hugging old ladies, kissing babies. He does that, which should serve as kind of a cautionary, kind of a warning to some people who think, well, you know, maybe the people are going to rise up and throw Kim Jong Un out. No. I don't know of any other world leader. I mean, of course, I'm not familiar with all of them, but I don't know of any other world leader that that does this sort of thing, that just gets his feet on the ground. He goes right out there and sees what's going on. He doesn't depend on other people to tell him. You know, he doesn't have to ask, well, what happened out there. No, he goes out there. So here he's right at that missile launch. And actually the fuel, the nitrogen tetroxide in that hydrazine is pretty toxic stuff if it escapes. It's pretty nasty. And you know, he's right out there with it. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and just kind of fascinating the way they do things. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.